but does this appear to be the text that you got from Mark? 8:52 p.m., yes.
Yes, that's it.
Okay. And you said that that was kind of a sign to you that you that calming down at that point?
Correct.
Is that something that you would look for in typical or other instances where Mark was upset with you, that something like that, a text message acknowledging that he was sorry, was a sign that he was starting to come to grips with his anger?
Correct.
So what did you do in response to receiving that text message from Mark?
I told Adam and Hannah and her family that they could leave, that I felt I was in good hands now.
Okay. Did Adam and Hannah and her family end up leaving?
At some point, I mean, I know Adam and Hannah did. I guess I'm not sure about her family.
Sure. So let's talk about when you were leaving, Lori. Did you have any conversations with Mark, or did you have any interactions with Mark inside of the bar before you left?
Oh, yeah, I mean, several. So, I mean, he was talking to somebody originally, and that person, I didn't know who he was, and him and his wife, and then they ended up leaving. So Mark and I were able to talk, just the two of us, and I remember telling him, I'm like, my boob hurts. And he's like, the fuck do you mean your boob hurts? I didn't touch your boobs. And I'm like, Mark, you had to have. He's like, who the fuck touched your boobs? Like, he got just mad all over again. And I was like, oh my God, I wish I would have never said anything.
At that point, was it evident to you that that anger from earlier in the evening was boiling over again?
Yes.
How did you feel at that point, Lori?
Well, I was scared, but I knew that I'd already had my friends going home, and I knew that we were going to go home, so I went to the bathroom and texted Hannah.
What did you text, or why did you go to the bathroom to text Hannah?
So that Mark didn't know that I was letting her know that he got angry again.
Okay. And I'm going to display Exhibit 77 on the Elmo again. Lori, we've been over this exhibit several times in this trial, but does the top of this exhibit here represent your initial text message to Hannah Klinsky?
Yes.
What did you mean by shit just got real?
Well, I knew Hannah would know what I meant by that, but she then would know that Mark and I were back at it again.
Okay. Why did you feel the need to let somebody know that?
Normally I don't talk. I mean, normally I don't say anything to anybody, but I just know that she knew about everything that happened that night, so I felt that I could confide in her.
Why did you ask Hannah to not reply back and indicate that you were deleting the message, Lori?
Because I didn't want Mark knowing that I told her.
Is that something that you would have been concerned about if Mark saw that text message?
Yes.
Now, Lori, there were a number of different clips of you going in and out of the dive bar towards the end of the evening. Is that correct?
I mean, I guess I don't remember going in and out that many times. I'll tell you that right now.
So let's talk about when you got out of the restroom. What did you do at that point?
So when I got out of the restroom, I didn't see Mark. So I got the crazy idea to just get in the truck and take off on my own.
Did you have your own key to the truck?
Yes.
Let's talk about that. Why did you decide to get in the truck and take off on your own?
Because I didn't think it would be a good thing if we were together, since Mark was getting mad all over again.
Okay. And at the moment, did you know where Mark was at?
I assumed the restroom.
All right. So when you got out to the truck, what happened?
I put it in reverse. I don't know if I actually moved or not when I saw Mark coming out of the bar.
Okay. What did you do when you saw Mark outside of the bar?
Put it in drive and got out of the truck.
Okay. How did Mark appear when he came over to you?
I'm sorry, park. I apologize. I put it in park.
Okay. How did Mark appear when he came over to you at the truck?
He was furious that I was leaving without him.
What happened?
When I got out of the truck, he slammed me up against the truck, yelling at me like he was in disbelief that I was leaving him. And then he grabbed my arm and walked me around the truck, opened my door, threw me in, well, as much as he could as from where he was standing, shut the door and punched the window.
So you said that he grabbed you and slammed you against the truck, and you motioned with both of your hands and did a pushing motion forward. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did I get that gesture essentially right? He grabbed you by the shoulders or the forearms and slammed you up against the side of the truck?
Yes.
And was he saying anything during this time frame?
Well, he was very upset. I mean, I don't recall everything he said. He was just very upset that I was leaving without him.
Still very visibly angry at that point?
Absolutely.
Did you say anything in response, Lori? Did you raise your voice at any point during that encounter?
Oh, yes. Okay, yes, I did. There were people outside. So when he did that, I raised my voice and I said, "Stop, you've done enough tonight." And I thought by raising my voice that I would get others to potentially hear, at the minimum hear, to see that there was something going on over on my side, on the driver's side of the truck.
Was there anybody outside that you could see?
Yes, there were people outside. That's the reason I raised my voice.
Did anybody come to help you when you raised your voice?
No.
Now, Lori, you said that Mark grabbed you by the arm and walked you around the truck. Did I hear that correctly?
Correct.
Could you describe how he grabbed you by the arm and how that looked?
I think you saw the bruises, but his hand was right underneath my arm, dragging me along, taking me along forcefully to the passenger side.
Did that hurt when Mark was grabbing your arm?
Of course it did.
Was he grabbing your arm, I guess, in a hard manner?
Yes.
Did you feel like you had any choice but to follow along as he grabbed you and dragged you around the side of the truck?
There was no other choice. I was going with Mark, yes. I had to go with Mark.
And I'm going to display what's been previously admitted as Exhibit 523. Lori, what are we looking at in this photograph?
My arm.
And it looks like there's some bruising along your bicep in the middle of your arm.
Correct.
Is that approximately where Mark was grabbing you and dragging you?
Yes.
So when you got to the passenger side of the truck, was it evident to you what Mark wanted you to do at that point?
Well, we were going home.
Did you feel like you had an option to not get in the truck at that point, Lori?
No. I wish there would have been an option, but no, there was no option.
How did the door get closed to the passenger side at that point?
Mark slammed it.
And you said that Mark punched the window.
He did.
Could you describe that? Did he punch at the window or did he physically punch the window?
He punched the window.
Where was his fist in relation to where your head was?
Right at my head. When I'm sitting there and he's punching the window, that's right where I'm sitting.
How did you react to that, to Mark punching the window where your head was?
Well, it was scary, and I knew that there was nothing I could do about it. I knew that I was stuck going home with a very, very angry Mark.
Had you ever seen him that angry before, Lori?
No.
So let's talk about the drive back home from the dive bar to your home in Holman. Was there any conversation during that drive?
Yes, there was a lot of conversation, and it was basically all Terry LaFleur.
Was this pleasant conversation at any point of the drive?
Pleasant? Never, no.
Was Mark still angry and upset?
Yes.
Was he still calling you names?
Of course.
And was he still stuck on that idea that you wanted to have sex with Mr. LaFleur?
Correct.
Now, at any point during this, or did the intensity of that behavior frighten you at any point, Lori?
Yes.
Had you ever seen him this out of control on a car ride before?
On a car ride? No. No. I've never seen Mark that out of control in my life.
Did you do anything during that car ride home to try and have him get a grip?
I took my ring off and gave it to him.
When you say your ring, what kind of ring do you mean?
My wedding ring.
Why did you do that, Lori?
I said, I can't do this anymore. I was hoping that he would take it seriously enough that he would realize that his actions were going to end our marriage if they continued.
How did Mark react to that when you gave him your wedding ring back and said you couldn't do that anymore?
He said, please, please don't give me that back.
Did he calm down a little bit?
That's the only time that he was calm.
Did he seem to realize that his behavior might lead to the eventual loss of his marriage?
Well, yeah.
Now, Lori, had you come up with any plans of what you would do to keep yourself safe when you got back home?
I had decided that I wasn't going to stay at home, that I wasn't going to sleep in the house with Mark.
So what was the plan?
I didn't have a plan at that time. I just knew I wasn't staying there.
All right. And it might sound, again, like an obvious question, but I still have to ask you at this stage, why weren't you going to stay there?
Because Mark was in a mood that I didn't feel safe to be with him.
So when you got back home, what did you do?
Actually, Mark went in the house right away, and I didn't remember when I was talking to Mr. Leinfelder that I did go in the house, but I did go in the house. We had 2 seltzers that were in the truck, and I put them on the counter, and then I went to the bathroom and grabbed my contacts and contact case and my glasses.
Why'd you grab your contacts and your glasses?
Because I was going to leave and stay somewhere else.
So where did you go once you grabbed your contact lenses and your glasses?
Back to the truck.
What's the next time that you remember seeing Mark after you got back to the truck?
Mark was running out of the house, and when I looked at him, he was running out of the house like this, charging towards me in the truck.
And you motioned that you had your right fist up, made into a fist, back by, I guess, your head. Is that correct?
Coming towards the window, correct.
And did it appear that Mark had his fist up like he was about to strike something?
Yes, I mean, like it was like a threat coming towards me, correct.
You said that he was running towards you. Did I hear that right, Lori?
Or moving very briskly, yes. I don't know if he was, he was moving quickly towards me, yes.
How did you react to that when Mark was moving quickly towards you with his fist up like that?
I remember going, no, 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 Mark. I remember saying that 100%.
Were you scared of Mark at that point?
Very scared.
What happened next?
It's like something clicked, and he's like, well, if you're leaving, I'm going to get all my stuff out of the truck. So he came over to the passenger side and started just rummaging through crap that was in the truck, and that's the best word I can use for the things that they were worthless things.
And what was your impression of what Mark was doing at that point?
I think that he was trying to delay me from leaving.
When you say that he was rummaging through crap, can we talk about a little bit what some of that was?
Yeah. So I mean, there were some can koozies. There was like some bank receipts. There were some beer chips. I remember seeing gum, like nothing of value.
And where was he placing all of this property when he was going through the truck?
Everything was put onto the passenger side seat.
Was Mark saying anything to you as he was going through all of these items?
Yeah, I mean, he was like, I'm just so you know, I'm changing the locks, which he always said. And then he found, I mean, he was saying a bunch of things. He was just trying to hurt me. But he also found some beer chips to a tavern in Holman. And he said that he was going to go there and go find some women.
Was this in the course of continuing to yell and scream at you?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And at some point, did Mark come upon a can koozie that you saw earlier in this trial?
Yes. Sorry, I forgot about that. Yes.
Did you recognize that can koozie?
Yeah. So Mark bought me that can koozie on my birthday. My birthday was the month prior to that. And it was, well, you saw part of it anyway, but it was a can koozie that had like animated breast, and it said, "Tits my birthday" on it.
Did Mark do anything when he came across that can koozie?
Yeah, he threw it at me, and he said, "Here, this is all you're good for."
What did you do in response to that?
I was like, whatever, and I tossed it out the door. I mean, he was like rummaging through stuff. He didn't even know it went over his head and out the door.
Was Mark calming down at all during this time frame?
No.
And Lori, was anything you were saying or doing causing Mark to calm down or reduce the intensity of his behavior that night?
No, he just kept getting more and more furious.
So, as you saw Mark behaving this way at the passenger side of the truck, did you do anything in response?
When he was getting furious? Oh, yes. So I grabbed my phone because he hadn't taken it yet. So I still had my phone. So I wanted to record how he was treating me, how he was talking to me, so that he could hear it the next day to realize the crap that I go through with him when he's drunk.
So, were you able to get your phone out?
Partially, yes. I got my phone out, but Mark noticed I had my phone and lunged for it. But I had pulled it back, and it like hit the window and dropped straight down in between my door and my seat.
What do you remember seeing about Mark next?
After it dropped, I looked at him immediately, and he was furious. It's like I looked at somebody that I didn't recognize at all. And he just took off and came around to come get me in the truck.
When you say he came around to come get you, what was your impression of what Mark was doing there?
He was going to come get me and drag me out of the truck, and I don't know what he would have done. I have no idea what he would have done.
Were you scared that the physical abuse would continue?
Absolutely.
Were you scared that the physical abuse could escalate to something more violent?
Yes.
And when you say that Mark was running around the truck, describe the route that he was going there.
So he went around the door, because the passenger door was wide open. He went around the door and ran around the truck.
Was he running very quickly?
Yes.
About how much time would you say elapsed from the time that Mark gave you that look and then tore off around the front of the truck towards your side of the door?
How much time elapsed, did you say?
Yes.
2-3 seconds. I mean, it doesn't take long to get around a truck.
What were you feeling at this point, Lori?
I was terrified. I was scared out of my mind. I was like, my heart was beating out of my chest, and I just wanted to be safe. I wanted to get to safety.
Have you ever been in a position like that, Lori, where you were forced to make a split-second decision under circumstances like that before?
No, not like that, no.
And you said that your heart was pumping. Are you familiar with the term fight or flight?
Yes.
Is that an instinct that you were feeling in that moment?
Yes. Well, so when he started running, I wanted to lock my doors because I didn't want him to be able to get to me. So I'm like trying to lock my doors because I was just so afraid of what was going to happen when he got to me.
Do you know if you were able to get the doors locked?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. I wasn't familiar with the truck.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you'd only driven this a few times before, maybe?
Right, and the doors lock on their own once you hit like 10, 15 miles an hour, so I've never had to use the door locks.
Now, at some point, did you see Mark clear the front of the truck and reach towards the side of the driver's side?
Yes, well, I know he wasn't in front of the truck because that's the only thing I could see was the front of the truck.
How close would you estimate Mark was to the truck before you made the decision to hit the accelerator?
That he was at my side of the door. I would say he was right at my door.
And Lori, what were you thinking when you, or let me ask you this, did you put the truck into drive and hit the accelerator?
I did.
What were you thinking during that process?
To get the hell out of there.
Were you even spending much time consciously thinking about this?
No. I mean, my husband's here. He's not in. So I should say, when I see forward only, it's because it's dark out and this door is wide open. So my light is on inside the truck. So it's right inside the truck. I can see forward because of the lights. But it was hard to see anything else. But I knew that he had cleared the front because he was not in my vision.
And Lori, is it fair to say, characterize your reaction here as more instinct and less conscious thought process?
100% instinct.
Were you thinking about anything other than getting yourself to safety at that moment?
No.
Was this a position, Lori, that you ever asked to be in?
No. No.
Was it something that you had any time to think about and consider the pros, the cons, and the risks?
No, it was like 2 or 3 seconds.
Once you hit the gas and left the driveway, where did you go?
I took a right out of the driveway, and that's actually when I took my right. That's when the passenger door shut, and then I drove down a little bit to a subdivision that ended up being, like, when I say a little bit, I guess it was approximately 2 miles away.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. Is it your testimony that the passenger side door was still open at the time that you hit the gas?
Yes.
So it happened that quickly.
Correct.
And why did you pull off in the subdivision, Lori?
I was checking to see if Mark was chasing me.
How did you assume that Mark would chase you to the subdivision?
Well, he would have gotten in his old car, the Outback, Subaru Outback.
Subaru. Now, when you got to the subdivision, did you have any reason to believe that Mark had been injured?
None. No.
Were you concentrating on the physical sensation, Lori, of whether or not the tires were coming up against a snowbank or how they felt on the road as you were fleeing from your husband?
Objection.
Overruled. Go ahead. Were you concentrating on the physical sensations of what the truck felt like when you were fleeing from Mark?
I don't think so, no.
What was first and foremost in your mind when you were trying to escape from Mark?
To get out of there, to get to safety, to get away from my husband.
Did you have the sense when you left that you thought you had hit Mark or struck him in some respect?
Not one time, no.
Lori, if you had had that sense that you had injured Mark or you had hit him with the truck, what would your response have been?
I would have stopped. I would have stopped and helped him.
Now, once you got to that subdivision, did you send Mark any text messages?
From the subdivision? Oh gosh, I sent Mark texts that night, but I don't
Sure.
remember where I was.
Well, let me ask about the timeline a little bit here. So, any dispute that the truck was on camera leaving the dive bar around 10:09 p.m.?
No, I've heard that from Mr. Leinfelder.
And do you have any dispute with Deputy Sloan's estimate that it takes about 30 minutes to drive from the dive bar to the home in Holman?
I would say that's pretty accurate.
How long would you say that the argument outside the truck lasted where Mark slammed you against the truck and was screaming at you?
Oh, at the dive bar?
Yes.
A minute? 2 minutes? I don't know.
And did it take some time when you got home to go get your contact lens case and your glasses?
Well, yeah. I was inside probably for like less than a minute probably, but there was other things that happened in that time.
And then obviously there was some time as well that elapsed while Mark was yelling at you and going through the items in the truck?
Correct.
So if we add, conservatively 5 minutes to 10:09, and then 30 minutes for travel time, can we say approximately when you would have left Mark would have been around 10:44 p.m., somewhere in that range?
Sure.
Okay. I'm showing you what's previously been admitted as Exhibit 517. Lori, I'm showing you the middle text in this exhibit that begins with, "I wish you the best." Do you recognize that text?
I do.
Who wrote that text message?
I did.
And who were you sending it to?
Well, it's going to say boss man, but that means Mark.
Now, subtracting 6 hours from 4:57 UTC leads us to about 10:57 p.m. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
So this would you have sent this text message shortly after fleeing from Mark?
Yeah. Yes.
Why did you send him that text message, Lori?
Well, because I wanted to let him know that his actions caused our basic breakup and me not going to Bismarck with him and starting a new life with him.
Were you serious about that at the time that you sent the text message?
Yes.
And when you sent that text message, Lori, did you have any reason to believe that Mark had been injured or might be dying on the side of your driveway?
None whatsoever.
Was that wish for good luck in Bismarck, was that sarcastic?
Probably. I don't know. I mean...
Did you have the impression that Mark would be going to Bismarck the following week?
Yeah, that Sunday, correct.
All right. Now, Lori, how long would you estimate you stayed at the subdivision for?
A few minutes.
Okay. Did you have a plan as to what would come next after stopping at the subdivision?
Yeah, well, that's when I was trying to figure out if I could find a hotel somewhere, I believe.
Okay. So what efforts did you make to try and find a hotel?
Well, I searched hotels near me because I really wasn't familiar with any hotels near me. And I ended up coming across one at Comfort Inn, I believe it was.
What did you do once you found the Comfort Inn online?
I probably did driving directions to it because I had no idea where it was.
Did you drive over to the Comfort Inn?
I did.
Were you able to get a room there?
No, they said online that they had a room available, but they did not when I got there.
And Lori, I should ask you, why were you planning on staying in a hotel at this point?
I didn't have anywhere else to go. I knew I couldn't go to Winona.
Did you feel like you could go home at that point?
No.
Why didn't you think you could go home at that point?
Because Mark was out of control.
Okay. So once you got to the Comfort Inn and they didn't have a room available, what did you do next?
I went back to the truck and I Googled, I want to say hotels near me again, and found the Baymont. But this time I actually went online and booked the room so that I didn't have to drive all the way over there to find that they didn't have a room available.
Okay. What happened after you booked the room to the Baymont?
Driving directions to the Baymont, and I went there.
All right. And we all saw the video of you in the lobby. I'm not going to play it again. But could you explain to us what was happening in that video?
Yeah, so he had asked me for I was checking in, he asked me for my driver's license as well as my credit card.
Okay. And what happened after you gave your driver's license and credit card to the clerk?
He couldn't find a booking, so I was like, no, I just booked it online. And then I think he just did a little bit more searching and found out that I had booked it. So I want to say this was like almost midnight or something, and I think I just confused the days. So I was trying to get one for Friday night, and I booked it for Saturday.
Okay. Did they have a room available for you at the Baymont?
No.
All right. Where did you go after the Baymont?
To Woodman's.
Why did you go to Woodman's?
To use the restroom.
Okay. Were you able to use the restroom there?
Yes.
After that, what did you do?
I went back to the truck, and I can remember texting Hannah from the truck and from the parking lot.
Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Were you using the internet at any point, either at Woodman's or at some point during this encounter where you were looking for a place to stay?
Yes.
And you recall seeing the document containing your Google searches for the evening?
Yes.
And it looked like looking for it here now, but we've all seen it. It looked like at a certain point you searched for the phrase physical abuse. Is that correct?
Misspelled, but yes.
Okay. The O is right next to the P on the smart keyboard.
Right.
Why did you search for physical abuse, Lori?
Because I wanted to find something to send to Mark to let him know that his actions were not okay. And I wanted him to know, like, how I felt, what I went through that night.
Is it fair to say that you were trying to figure out how to process that incident?
Yes.
After searching for physical abuse, did you make another search for physical abuse? It's spelled quite in the internet search history.
Yes, I did that.
What were you searching for there, Lori?
It must have been physical abuse quit.
Again, why were you searching for physical abuse quit?
Again, to find something to send to my husband for him to acknowledge his behavior that night.
Did you find a quote that you felt encapsulated somewhat your feelings on the matter?
I did find a quote, and I did send it to Mark, yes.
And I'm going to redisplay 517. Bottom quote here starts with, an abuser can seem emotionally needy. You can get caught in a trap of catering to him, trying to fill a bottomless pit. But he's not so much needy as entitled, so no matter how much you give him, it will never be enough. He'll just keep coming up with more demands because he believes his needs are your responsibility until you feel drained down to nothing. Is that the quote that you sent to Mark?
It is.
And it looks like that would have been sent at approximately 12:10 a.m. and 13 seconds. You take my word on that?
Sure.
When you sent that quote to Mark, what did you hope the result of that would be?
I guess I just kind of wanted him to like self-reflect on his actions. I just wanted him to do better.
I'm going to ask you again, Lori, at this point, did you have any reason to believe that Mark was injured or dying back at the home?
None whatsoever.
You hoped that he would read that text?
Right.
So you're texting with Ms. Klinsky as well, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm not going to review all of the text messages again, but I do want to go back to Exhibit 77, front page here. Lori, do you recall sending that text message to Ms. Klinsky at 10:51 p.m. about beginning with "he just freaked again"?
Yes.
Would this have been shortly after you fled from Mark at the home?
So that was probably at the subdivision.
Okay.
That would be my guess.
Did you have any reason to believe, Lori, that your text messages would one day be downloaded by law enforcement and read out loud to a courtroom full of people?
Absolutely not.
Why were you sending this text message to Hannah?
Again, I mean, Hannah knew what I went through that night, and she was the only person. It wasn't. I'm not one to tell people about things that happen between Mark and myself. Like, I think there's probably, like, my kids and stuff are a little shocked about this trial right now, things they've heard. So, like, Hannah didn't know things before, Adam didn't know things before. I don't talk about it, but Hannah I could trust that night because she already knew stuff.
I want to focus on the bottom line of that text message. He promised he would never touch me. He lied. What did you mean by that, Lori?
So, I mean, we've had instances in the past, and the last time he told me, he goes, that he would never touch me. So I figured that he meant again, I was under the understanding that we were going to start all over in Bismarck and start a whole new life together, a happy life. And I believed that he was going to change his ways.